And it's a simple question, and I know you're good at answering questions, Mr. Tice.
Did Richard Tice technically admit on GB News this morning that Rupert Lowe's suspension is for political reasons, as opposed to the supposed allegations against him? Take a listen and tell me what you think.
If he's exonerated, is he welcome back in reform?
Well, the whip has been withdrawn, and we want team players that will unite.
Question.
I am actually. The whip has been withdrawn, and that should be the assumption.
We want team players who will unite. Short clip there, but it has caused quite the stir. Rupert Lowe has shared it, and he says Tice has inadvertently revealed what is really going on. I'm not welcome back in the party, even if my innocence is proven. This is a coordinated hit job to force me out of reform and has nothing to do with false and damaging allegations against me. Now, Richard Tice, not 100% clear in what he said there, but Rupert and a lot of others are suggesting that Richard Tice was essentially saying there that even if Rupert Lowe is found to be not guilty of anything, we need team players is what he said, suggesting that really he's not going to be allowed in the party even if he's done nothing wrong because he disagrees with them politically. Now that begs the question, was he kicked out of the party just because of political disagreements? Was it a stitch-up? Was that statement that came out, was that false? And we're going to take a look, make sure you keep watching, because we're going to take a look at Rupert Lowe has now put out a new tweet explaining step by step each section of, breaking down each section of that statement that was put out about him and explaining what is really going on from his perspective. But before we get to that, let's just have a look at some of the fallout from some others on Twitter. So I just wanted to pick up this tweet from Nick Dixon, who says, Tice here implies the investigation makes no difference, and in the Sky News interview basically says the issue is they can't get on with Lowe. So why not just admit that rather than this dodgy, cobbled together character assassination? It's woke cancel culture behaviour. Does really, regardless of whatever the truth or falsity is to that statement that was put out, I think I have to say that it's not looking good for the Reform Party. The way that things are falling out, it seems as though the impression is given that Rupert Lowe is on the winning side of this, and people have been pretty unimpressed with the way Reform have dealt with it. It really does come across as a witch hunt, the way that statement came out literally right after Rupert Lowe had spoken with the press and said that he, has some decent recommendations of things that need to change in the party. Now, some people suggest it's the other way around, right? And that Rupert Lowe went to the press knowing that this statement was about to come out from Reform to make it look like a witch hunt. That is another suggestion that is going around. But I think regardless of which one is right, either or none of them, the way that most people on the internet seem to be responding to this is they think it looks like a stitch-up. Okay, so it's not a good look for Reform, regardless of whether in the right or the wrong. At least for now, it's not a good look for them. Maybe, if it is the case that he's found guilty of wrongdoing, then maybe people will forgive them for this and say, okay, the Reform Party were right. But at the moment, it's not looking great, and they are scrambling to explain themselves for what they did to Rupert Lowe. Maya shared this clip from this news article which says, sources close to Mr. Farage claim that Mr. Lowe has drifted politically from the leader, being captured by the online radical right, with myriad X posts about mass deportations and other preoccupations. Is it the case that Rupert Lowe was actually too right-wing for the party? Maya says Reform UK claims Rupert Lowe has been radicalised by online right-wingers. Party leadership isn't happy about Rupert's right-wing policy ideas, such as mass deportations and criticism of radical Islamism. Okay, you remember Nigel's comments from the Winston Marshall podcast where, he was clear that we need to tread carefully around Islam and that we can't win the general election, by completely disillusioning, with complete disillusionment of the Muslim community. And we need to tiptoe basically around the issue of Islam carefully, right? And so maybe Rupert Lowe's opinions on that matter were not welcome. And Nigel Farage, he's caused quite a stir with he decided to write a piece himself for the Telegraph to try and clear the Reform Party's name on this matter, and he says Reform has acted responsibly over Rupert Lowe. The stakes are too high. My party has elections to win. So here, where we say where he says my party has elections to win, I think the way that he's worded this, I'm not going to show you the rest of the article. You guys can go have a look at the rest of it for yourselves. But it does give the impression that this was more about political disagreement, and he talks there about how Rupert was constantly getting in sort of fights and disagreements. I don't mean physical fights, but political fights, disagreements with others in the party and others in the House of Commons. It doesn't seem to suggest that it was all just about these accusations of bullying that's what the statement suggested this is all about. So it's all very, very fishy, and I want to bring you now to Rupert's explanation that he put out about the Reform statement. So I showed you guys before the first tweet that he put out in response to what went on, but he's put out this further tweet now explaining each part of the statement more deeply. So I'm going to read you this, bear with me, and I want you to let me know in the comments what you think. Whose side are you on here? Rupert says, this is important. I want to break down the Reform statement about me in full and show you how it's maliciously concocted to drag my name through the mud, with zero credible evidence against me, all because I dared to pose a few reasonable questions about Reform's leadership. So first part of the statement, it is with regret that we feel obligated to disclose that the party received complaints from 2 female employees about serious bullying in the offices of the Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe. Now Rupert says these allegations are not against me personally, but the office. Both of these employees only raised their complaints once disciplinary proceedings had started against both of them for serious offences. Don't know what those serious offences are, but that's what he says. They both admitted to these offences. No complaints whatsoever before. Parliamentary HR were involved in every step of the way, and full parliamentary process was followed. One of the individuals later dropped her appeal. They were parliamentary employees, not Reform employees. Interesting. Then another part of the statement said one worked in his parliamentary office, the other in his constituency office. We understand complaints have been made to parliamentary authorities. And Rupert says, I've heard nothing from the parliamentary authorities. Again, HR have been fully supportive every step of the way. I have a huge amount of evidence to prove it. Okay. Next part. He says, evidence was provided to us of workplace bullying, the targeting of female staff who raised concerns, and evidence of derogatory and discriminatory remarks about women, including reference to a perceived disability. Now, Rupert says, I did not make these remarks. These comments mentioned refer to a different member of staff's remarks. That's quite shocking if that's the case. Vindictively leaked in private WhatsApp messages by one of the individuals who was going through the disciplinary process. She resigned before that process could finish. Are MPs now responsible for mildly inappropriate comments that their staff make in private conversations? Reform has deliberately conflated these accusations to make me look guilty. Again, there is no credible evidence against me of any bullying whatsoever. And the next part of the statement says, we feel we have a duty of care to all our staff, whether employed directly or indirectly. Accordingly, we appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct an investigation into the veracity of these complaints. To date, Mr. Lowe has yet to cooperate with this investigation. Rupert says, false. I've spoken with the KC at length on multiple occasions. I have asked for credible evidence against me. None has been provided. To say I haven't cooperated is an outright lie, and my legal team are on this. Yeah, I think that's, to be honest, one of the most shocking things about it is the claim that he's refused to cooperate with an investigation, because that, is pretty serious claim to make against someone, to say that they've refused to cooperate with an investigation. But apparently that's not even true. According to what he said and the he shared the comment. You may have seen the other tweet where he shared what the KC had said to him after asking what's happening with this statement. It's quite shocking. And then, last but not least, we've got a couple more statements that he wants to debunk. In addition to these allegations of a disturbing pattern of behaviour, Mr. Lowe has on at least 2 occasions made threats of physical violence against our party chairman. Accordingly, this matter is with the police. Again, a very, very bold claim to make, that he has made threats of physical violence, right? If that is false, that is very defamatory. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But this is what Rupert says. This is total nonsense. In December, Zia and I had a robust debate. We moved on, and so I thought. This was then reported to the police the day after I raised concerns about the party leadership, months after the event. What a disgraceful waste of police time, weaponising the process to blacken my name. Yes, so the interesting of the report to the police is quite suspicious, I have to say. Why didn't it happen at the time if there genuinely was a threat of physical violence? Why did you wait until it was convenient to make that report to the police? Last one that he wanted to debunk. Reform stands for the highest standards of conduct in public life, and we will apply these standards without fear nor favour, including within our own party. So Rupert says, so we are clear, it is now reform policy to remove MPs if staff members make vexatious complaints, even whilst they are going through the disciplinary procedure following serious offences, before any investigation is even allowed to start. Do they want to go down this path? Really? All of this and more is with my legal team. I won't tolerate these falsehoods. It is a vindictive witch hunt, all because I asked awkward questions of Nigel. So there we go. Now on that last one, just one comment I'll make on that. It's not unheard of that if an MP is under investigation for something, that the whip might be removed, especially if it's something particularly serious, but on the condition that if they are found to be not guilty of anything, that whip will be reinstated. But that clip we saw of Richard Tice on GB News seems to suggest that whip will not be given back to him, even if it turns out that after an investigation that he is found to have not done anything wrong. This absolutely has something to do with political disagreement, if you ask me. Now, is it all about political disagreement and all of this that they've said about him is complete nonsense and Rupert's done nothing wrong? I don't know. But I think it seems clear to me from that especially from that article that Nigel, the leader of the party himself, has put up about Rupert, that this is more than allegations of bullying and supposed threats of violence. This is at least in part to do with Rupert questioning the leadership, Rupert disagreeing politically on whatever, maybe Rupert's too right-wing for them, I don't know all the details, but there's definitely something to do with disagreement and disunity. And, Nigel says in this article that, the Tories didn't get anything done because of disunity in the party, we need a united party, but I do think that, some degree of disagreement in the party and constructive criticism of whatever the policies of the party are and the way the party is run is inevitable and natural. I think they've created more disunity and frustration in the party by doing this and kicking Rupert Lowe out. I mean, I know that I feel pretty disheartened and pretty frustrated with the party, perhaps less patriotic towards the party as a consequence of what's gone on. I think it's really sad to see. It does make them look like petty politicians, acting like snakes rather than reasonable adults who are different from the rest of the lot in Westminster. So I think, regardless of whether there is truth to that statement that was put out about Rupert Lowe or not, I think that the way that they've gone about it does not look good. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you are on Rupert's side or on Lee and Zia's side. / Nigel's side as well, because he's now involved, even though he didn't sign that statement? And will you still be supporting the Reform Party after this? Do you think this will damage the Reform Party's reputation and support in the polls? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm Chloe Dobbs. See you next time.